Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our attendees joining us today for this latest Data Science Central webinar. This is Bill Voorhees, your host. I'm the Editorial Director with Data Science Central and also Chief Data Scientist for Data Magnum. And I'd like to start off our event today by thanking Teradata for sponsoring today's event. Teradata is an integral supporter of the Data Science Central community, and we're honored to have them sponsoring our event today. I'd also like to take this opportunity to mention and show our appreciation for some of our other recent sponsors, including Alteryx, Crowdflower, Tableau, Qubel, Dell Statistica, and Exaptive, to name just a few. Now, our past webinars are available on demand at datasciencecentral.com. If you haven't had an opportunity to view them, I encourage you to take a look. They provide some very useful insight into a wide variety of topics of interest to our data science community. Today's webinar is entitled Multigenre Advanced Analytics to Optimize Your Hadoop Data Lake. And before we begin, I'd like to briefly review the format of today's webinar. The event today will be an hour long. We have one presenter that I'll introduce in just a minute. There'll be 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A following the presentation. And this event is being recorded and will be available on datasciencecentral.com later this afternoon, following today's live event. I'd also like to encourage our attendees to provide questions throughout the presentation. We'll be reviewing and presenting them on your behalf during the Q&A portion of today's event. Now, our speaker today is John Thuma, a technology leader and evangelist, a recognized leader in data warehousing, business intelligence, and advanced analytics. Currently, he's director of the ASA Data Sciences team at Aster. John brings over 25 years of experience in developing and implementing innovative advanced analytic solutions for global entities. And he has experience across multiple vertical industries, including manufacturing, retail, healthcare, banking, and education. John's also led complex initiatives for Microsoft, SAP, and other software companies. His technology skills are complemented by his ability to articulate ideas through a variety of channels across all levels of an organization. So John, thanks for being with us today. We're looking forward to your presentation. As Hadoop enters its 10th year as a platform technology, the industry is at a tipping point where applications built on top of Hadoop data lakes must overcome the necessity of premium coding skills in order to access and analyze the vast amounts of data in the lake. So in today's DSC webinar, John will discuss challenges and opportunities lying in your data lake, the power of multi-genre analytics, and explore some real-world use cases. So John, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can begin as soon as you're ready to go.
All right, Bill, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I came up with something called Analytics for Humans about 6 months ago, and I started playing around with it in my head. And why did I come up with this? Because everything I've done in analytics over the past 25, 30 years has been for people, right? And as a data scientist, or whatever you want to call us now, we tend to forget that it's not just about Jacquard coefficients. It's not just about parallel hyperplanes. It's not just about being able to persist models and test models and things like that. Really, what we're trying to do is optimize people's lives, and we're trying to optimize the way people work, and so that they can do things for business, right? And so that's what the focus of Analytics for Humans is about. And it's about presenting form factors that allow you to interact with different people. And then, obviously, form factors that can interact with Hadoop. And, with that said, and no one's, unfamiliar with this, is that what's been going on in the past, 10 years in our lives has been pretty amazing, right? Disruptive, everything's been disruptive, from the way we manage data to the way we store data to the way we analyze data to what we do with it, the kinds of analytics we do. If you go back 10, 15 years ago, we were laser focused on BI and KPIs. Now we're focused on predictive models and things like that. And if you go, you look at the Fortune 2500 from 20 years ago and you compare it to the list today, it's drastically different. And there's a reason for that. It has to do with innovation. It has to do with data, taking advantage and exploiting the most valuable asset you have in your organization. That's data, right? And organizations that do survive and organizations that don't survive. And that's just a simple thing. Now, the idea is to get people Get people involved in your solutions. And I don't just mean the data scientists and my business data scientists, but I mean the people at the end of the call center. I mean the people that are interacting with your customers at your branch or at your retail stores. Well, how do they use analytics, and what's their form factor? Believe it or not, there is one for them. We're going to go through that a little bit today. Also, the sentient enterprise, which is really, I think, is the heart and soul of what we're trying to present here, is that Teradata is not the same Teradata. We're not just an EDW or IDW company. We have a vast set of products now and services, and we are an analytics-driven organization now. We have a great advanced analytics practice inside with a very stable of good talent. So, it's really what's going on is that we've been spending a lot of time building out data lakes. Right, and I'll get into what a data lake is here a little bit, but it's really those blue areas on the left that has to do with what a data lake represents. Right, it's all the sensor data, it's all the IoT data, it's all the clicks on my website, it's all my mobile data, it's all my customer interactive behaviors. Heck, it could even be data coming from my warehouse, or it could be data coming from my transaction systems. The point is, it's just a place to put data, and data by itself isn't that interesting. Right? It is, don't get me wrong. There's some of my data people out there. I've been doing ETL and data development for a long time. So, but it really doesn't produce value. It really costs a lot of money to keep that data, so to keep that data located somewhere. So a lot of the times we just throw away that data. Right? So Hadoop came around and was commercialized, and it's distributed by Hortonworks and MapR and Cloudera and things like that. And what they've done is they've made it a very affordable place to put data. Now, that is still expensive. The people, the process, the quality, the governance that have to go into, and the security that have to go into building out a data lake can be pretty expensive, right? But it's still not, it's expensive, but it's not valuable, right? I'm not producing value from that data. And that's what the section on the right does, that white area, and that's where Aster comes into play. Aster is coming out in pretty soon, I think it's October, or maybe beginning of November, to run on top of Hadoop. And this is exciting because now it's going to make that data in that data lake more accessible for more people to do more advanced things than they've ever thought they'd ever be able to do. And that's this, predictive parts failures and product recommendation engines and online fraud prevention and clickstream analytics and all kinds of different use cases that we've already exploited with Aster for the past 10 years too. Aster, if you haven't known, has been around for a good 10 years itself. So, what is a data lake? Really simply put, a data lake is a very affordable place to land data, and most of the time it's in a Hadoop infrastructure, right? So, it's got the whole parallelization and MPP aspects to it. It's replicated, so if we lose a node, we don't lose the entire cluster. We don't lose that data. I think one of the biggest challenges has been is that how do I take advantage of that data in that data lake? And then we have a group called Think Big within Teradata that all they do is help customers develop data lakes, right? They've actually open sourced their data lake methodology, or about to open source their data lake methodology, so that it can be published out to the world, so that it can be used and improved by the community. So it's a really exciting thing. But the point is the data lake is very simple. It's an affordable place to land data. And I've heard numbers, and we probably all have heard numbers about, it's gigabytes, pennies per gigabytes or dollars per gigabytes. And, compared to, other types of storage mechanisms, it is a very affordable place to put data. But it's still expensive, and we're not exploiting it. There are challenges with it. And, I think that's where the biggest opportunity comes from our data lake and from our Hadoop environment is to address these challenges, right? And if you look at the data lake and you look at the way the Hadoop infrastructure has been, it's been very technology focused, right? Pig, Hive, HiveQL, HCatalog, all these new things popping up. Now Spark, and sooner or later it'll be something else, right? So it's very technology focused. It's not very business focused, right? Is it reliable? Have I built out my infrastructure properly? How do I integrate solutions with my Hadoop infrastructure? Do I have compatibility issues? I just can't go and update or upgrade. If I have something in production in Hadoop, I can't easily go and upgrade a version of Hive or Pig or whatever, and it may break the compatibility version of something else. So we have to think about that, right? It requires niche skill sets, right? And those skill sets are not highly abundant. They're not highly available. And depending on where you are geographically, they may be impossible to find, right? And then finally, I think the big one is how do I operationalize Hadoop or this data lake being Hadoop, how do I operationalize that so I can produce value? You know, my manager has this saying, he goes, John, big data costs money. Big data analytics makes money, and he's right. And by being able to put analytics to work for an organization based on the resources that are inside of that data lake, I'm going to be able to make money or take money out of my costs to actually improve my organization. So that's what the point is of Aster and what we're trying to do with Aster on Hadoop. Now let's take a look at this interesting paper that came out last year, and it's right from Gartner, and they said, you know, that the demand on Hadoop is not accelerating. And they gave a couple of reasons, and they said it actually looks fairly anemic over the next 24 months. And we're about halfway through that 24-month cycle, and you can check out this document on your own. But the real heart and soul of this is really what I took from it are these three things. Hadoop is difficult, right? Skills gaps between, you know, do I have the skill sets necessary? Can I retain those skills? You know, are people using me to build their resume to move on? I mean, 57% of the respondents claim that there's a skills gap in their organization to take advantage of Hadoop and make something worth it. ROI challenge, right? I mean, 49% of the respondents said that they can't figure out a return on investment. You know why? Because they're not integrating the Hadoop data lake into the business community. They're not building analytics. They're not building integrated solutions that human beings can use. And that's why I've really focused on the human aspect of things. And finally, leverage the skills you already have. You know, I'm constantly amazed, and I've been in this business forever, of Hadoop, and I've looked at it, and I've built out, you know, Hive tables, and I've done all kinds of stuff, and, you know, I've used HiveQL, and I've used different things, and I'm just amazed that we have actually gone back 40 years in time to take advantage of file processing systems that Hadoop makes up. Right? That the relational database used to take care of a lot of the things that, you know, that we used to take for granted, and that's, you know, I'm really amazed that we've actually taken that step back, right? So, I mean, my point is what if I could, you know, you have an abundant set of people that know ANSI SQL in your shop, right? In your organization. Why not take advantage of those people? And also, what if I can give them the interfaces they need to be able to build applications easily and then present those to the business users? And I think that's what the key challenges and takeaway of this Gartner presentation are, and that's what we're going to try to resolve here. Not only that, but there's gaps in adoption with Hadoop, right? There's so many tools and there's so many inconsistent performances and inconsistent form factors. I need a diverse set of skills. I was watching this video by a very large bank, and they did this predictive analytic, and he said he jumped from this S3 implementation, and he went over to this database, and he went into Hive, and then he went over, and he finally got it into Spark, and they did all this stuff, and then they made the prediction. And I'm just thinking, man, how do you operationalize that? How do I put that to work? What if I put that in production? Do I have to have separate environments for development, test, and production? And then what about segregation of duties? Can the same people that are building the solution actually support the solution? Things like that. There's no common set of tools. There's no common set of visualizations that people can use. And sure, there are an abundance of open source tools, and I'm not anti-open source at all. In fact, Teradata is the biggest contributor to Presto, right, which is an open source database that was founded by the Facebook folks, right? So I mean, we're also in this open source world, right? And sometimes for repetitive tasks and things like that, it's not very scalable. You know, there's late binding issues, and there's things like that that make this, very tough to use. And also, not a lot of solid documentation. Sure, it's out there. Sure, I can go to the web and I can get an answer for things, but I can hunt and peck. The skills that I need to have can be very challenging. So what we've done to address this is try to fill in those gaps, right? And Aster is really what this is about. Aster attempts, we've got an integrated set of tools. You can use your query engine IDE of choice. You can use your BI tools. You can use App Center for your business data scientists. I can use Aster R and open source R tools against Aster. I've got a whole set of operational techniques and capabilities. I've got data movement. I've got all these things built into one place, one tool. And then I've got some other things for my business users, for my people that are never going to be technical. I've got a bundled set of IP, intellectual property offerings that we actually can provide to customers that solve business problems, that do things like customer journey or customer 360 or customer satisfaction indexing, things like that. And what they do is they provide a set of tools and interfaces that human beings can use. So that's the point of Aster. Aster fills in all these gaps that Hadoop has, and it's easy to use. And at the end of this, I'm going to offer out to anybody listening today, if you want to get on a call with me for 30 minutes, just hit my Twitter account up or hit my email address up, and we'll get on a call, and I'll teach you Aster in 30 minutes and how to do a predictive model. But here's the deal. Here's a Spark interface, and this is Spark running on my desktop. And very cool stuff, right? Python, Scala are very powerful languages. You got the Spark ML language and things like that, Spark ML classes and whatnot for doing predictive analytics and whatnot. Very cool stuff. But once I get it to scale, it's very difficult and cumbersome to use, right? If I don't know what an RDD is, or if I don't know how to use a data frame, or if I don't know how to distribute my data properly, I might be able to do something very bad. I mean, it's the same with Hadoop, that if I build a Hive table and I do an order by, my order of my records may not come back properly, right? And it's the same with Spark. If I don't know what I'm doing, I could get myself into some big trouble. But the last thing is that if this is open source Spark and it's great, but there's no interface, I'm not going to hand this over to my business user. I'm not going to hand a command line over to my business user. So I'm going to have to build all that plumbing, all that interfacing, all that other stuff around Spark, including the security and privacy and all that other good stuff. I'm going to have to build all that myself, or I'm going to have to find other open source tools that do it for me. Now, I do have other form factors, such as, I've got this one, right? This is from Databricks. It's very cool stuff, right? But is it human ready? I mean, some of it is. It does have some dashboards and whatnot. And, it has a notebook type interface, which is very powerful, very good for my data scientist. But again, probably not very human ready. My business data scientist may not feel comfortable in here. It does have some dashboarding and things like that. But if I wanted to do a predictive analytic and maybe some graph analytics, I may not have a very easy way of doing it through a common set of interfaces. So this is where Teradata comes in. And this is what you're seeing. This is the human-friendly interface that we call App Center. This is Teradata App Center, and right now it comes with Aster, out of the box, comes with Aster. And it will come with, I think the next release of this is going to support not only Aster, but it's also going to support the full UDA, Unified Data Architecture, which is Aster and Teradata and Hadoop. So this will all be able to run there. But it's very simple, three-step process. It's as easy to use as my iPhone. And I'm going to run analytics, but I'm not going to have to code analytics, right? And that's what I mean by the human interface, just one of those human interfaces. And we'll get to that a little bit. So what do humans want? Humans want solutions that allow them to affect people and process. If we can't optimize business, if we can't change a business process with a churn score or a customer lifetime value score or a next best action, if I can't get that next best action into my customer touchpoint systems, that analytic is not useful. Right? So that's what people want. We need to change the way people interact with their systems and their business processes. We want to be cloud smart, right? With Aster coming out in AWS, which is in the next few months, we're really excited about that. Being able to set up an Aster environment on Amazon Web Services is coming. But I don't want all my data up in the cloud. I don't want all my data. So we offer a variety of solutions, what we call cloud hybrid, right? And so it's really what I call cloud smart. Some data needs to sit in proprietary in my environment. Some data needs to sit in the cloud. We need to have things that offer complete vision and complete execution. I want to be able to take a new product that is in production, and I want to integrate that into my business, maybe my CRM systems or my campaign management systems. That's what I mean by complete vision. It's really that last mile of analytics that matters. And Aster allows the simple form factors to take advantage of Hadoop and the data in your Hadoop environment so that you can focus more on that first and last mile of analytics, which is where the real work is, right? Governance and security, right? With Aster, I have full ANSI SQL capabilities to be able to put security around the data that's in my Hive infrastructure, in my Hadoop data lake, right? I can put views in, and then just because I know how to create users in Aster because it's a relational database, right? There's a relational database still inside of Aster. I'm able to put to put users and groups and rights and restrict access to data objects in my data lake. But not only that, but I've got the full power of ANSI SQL, real ANSI SQL, not almost ANSI SQL, right? And I think the number one thing is business ROI. Everything we do as data scientists has to be engulfed in some sort of return on investment. It has to be done for a reason, right? Otherwise, it's a science experiment. And I don't mind doing science experiments for 1 or 2 days, 3 days, things like that. To do a science experiment inside of Hadoop now could take a while, right? It could be a big deal. With Aster, I can do my science experiments in a few days, determine if that's the direction we want to go or not, and then go implement my churn score or my customer lifetime value score, things like that. So that's what we want. You know, an interesting use case, just to come down to, and I want to get to a business use case here, interrupt you a little bit, is that this is something we've done with Aster, and we've got this implemented in about 3 or 4 different organizations. And what we've done is we've taken the TIFF images, like, you know, PDF documents that are TIFF images that are like contracts, or they could be, order forms, or they could be anything like that, you know, anything that's been archived in a content management system that it isn't easily I'm not able to get to it. What we've done is we've taken the best open source tools, built a set of SQL MR functions, allow you to lift this data into Aster very quickly, very rapidly, and do an OCR character recognition on it, and then take advantage of text analytics and other analytics inside of Aster to be able to mine this data for very interesting things. And the answer is, John, I can already do this with open source. Yes, our customers said the same thing. We'll come in, and in a few days, we'll have an environment set up with this ready to go, and we're able to actually look for, you know, the data points inside of your contracts or inside of your forms that you're stored, that have data about your customers that may solve regulatory problems or may be able to tell you, metadata about your contracts and things like that. But this is very interesting. We can also localize the signature detection and make attempts at converting that to a bit stream and do a PCA analytic and look for fraud. So this is just and we can do this at scale, at hundreds of thousands, if not millions of documents. There are tools out there that allow you to do one at a time or a few at a time. It's really being able to look at them at a mass level that Aster provides you to do, and be able to then turn it into something valuable that solves a regulatory problem or something of that nature. I think one of our most exciting use cases today. So my question is, what do the largest airlines, telco carriers, banks, and retailers have in common? Well, those are customers of mine, and they're all human beings, and they all take advantage of big data and optimize their business in production. This hit me like a ton of bricks maybe 3 months ago as well. It's like, my gosh, I go around and what I do is I take care of the top 40 most Aster customers in the United States and the Americas. And I look around and I see the amazing things they're doing with this, and I'm able to say, wow, this is not just a science experiment. This is not just some POV. They're actually using this. This is in production. Their business is critically running on Aster to do something to optimize, to add revenue, to figure out what makes customers do things, or attribution, or it's taking money or cost out of their business, and it's in production. So all the things that we talk about with Aster are pretty amazing, and they're actually in production. And the reason I bring this slide up is business intelligence tells you what happened, right? Aster is not a business intelligence tool. Don't get me wrong, it is. But I mean, the point is that it tells you, business intelligence tells you what happened. It's got key performance indicators. It's got, you know, green, yellow, red, right? My new accounts are up, it's green. You know, they've gone up. When I see it's green, I do X business process, right? Well, Aster can do that, but it can also tell you what happened, right? It can tell you why it happened. And that's very important. What things attributed? Was it a campaign? Was it a competitor failure? You know, there's a failure in there. Was it some additional product that we bundled together? What actually caused that to happen? Why did that happen? And then we can predict what could happen. And that's really what the difference is between Aster and a data warehouse. You know, data warehouses are great with BI tools to tell you what happened, KPIs. Maybe I can do a little bit of linear regression, and I can do some predictive or some speculation about what's going to happen in the future. But with Aster, I've got a set of multi-genre tools or multi-type analytics that allow me to take advantage of things, and that's really the crux. And when I can combine that with my data lake and all those assets, those data assets in my lake, I can really do some amazing things. And that's really the difference between Aster and the business intelligence kind of metaphor here. So what is Aster? It's really what we call all humans analytic ecosystem. And what I mean by that is that we can build solutions. It's really a development environment that allows you to build solutions, advanced analytics solutions rapidly, and do it at scale, right? Do it at massive scale. And be able to, and what I mean by that is data scale. You know, the data in your data lake is hundreds of terabytes. We can take advantage of it. Aster can take advantage of it. And then the multi-type analytics. This is where the rubber hits the road. And the ANSI SQL and Aster R capabilities. These are the tool sets that my data scientists or my developers will use to build a solution for my business users, for my human beings, right? We give them a very simple form factor to do that. And you don't have to switch tools. You don't have to go to something to do Graph. You don't have to go to somewhere to do text analytics. You don't have to go to a different tool to do something different. I can go from the same metaphor, right? I use the same kind of, and we'll get to that in a second. I have my App Center, my Teradata App Center, which is my business data science environment. Again, that's the point and click environment, the big icons that fill out the form and then hit run and you get your answer. And then I have my Aster Spark connector and my real-time SDK. These are brand new things. The Spark connector has not come out yet. It's still in beta, but it's coming out here in the next few months. This is exciting. Aster Spark connector allows you to take advantage and stream data over into Spark without knowing how Spark works. You don't have to know how it works. So if you want to build a linear regression model in Spark using data from Aster, and you don't want to know what an RDD is, or you don't want to know what a data frame is, you don't know how to program in Scala, you don't know how to program in Python, I can take advantage of this connector to be able to stream data over into Aster or into Spark and then do scores, right? I can do real-time scoring and things like that. My real-time SDK is exactly what that is. This is an Aster markup language which allows you to persist a model that's off of the Aster environment that can then run in really a Java jar file, and then you deploy that out into, say, a web server farm, and then I can integrate that solution with my website, so I can actually make personalized next best offers, or I can personalize a page based on some predictive analytic, and it's off the Aster system, and the runtime on this is just amazing. It's millions of hits in a second. It scales great. So, and then of course we have my Aster on Hadoop, which is coming out in October, and Aster on AWS, which is also out by October. Two very exciting things, and being able to do all of these things on top of Hadoop is really going to change the value that I can get from my Hadoop infrastructure. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but what is Aster Analytics Solution? It's really simple. It really starts with these 4 pillars, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's multiple sources of data. I really don't care what it is, if it's XML, if it's JSON, if it's HL7 from healthcare, if it's any kind of data path or format. I really don't care what it looks like. It can be structured, it can be multi-structured, it can be massive, it can be huge. It can go to terabytes, to petabytes if we need to. And of course it's running against the Hadoop infrastructure, so it all depends on the power of your Hadoop infrastructure. Then I have my multi-genre analytics. This is where the rubber hits the road for Aster. I have relational SQL. So I have real ANSI SQL built into the box. Why is that important? Because Hive and HiveQL is not real ANSI SQL. It's almost SQL, right? I have multiple types of analytics built in. I have text, I have graph, I have machine learning. I have all these different capabilities built in and visualizations and whatnot. And 3, from being able to operationalize that. How do I fail fast, right? If my code surface area, what I mean by that, if it takes me 30,000 lines of code to write and build a solution across 5 or 6 different tools, how can I be agile? How can I be quick, right? If that one of those people or that person that leaves that organization that knows that solution, how do I replace that person? So I mean, there's a lot of risk here. With Aster, I have one form factor for developers And I have that works across all the genres of analytics across data at that scale. And so that's where the users come in. And that's where, I have my data scientists, my business users, my analysts, my R users. That's another big thing. Aster R is out now. It's been out for a while. And it really allows you to take advantage of R at scale. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So what is multi-genre analytics? I mean, a genre is just basically a type or a family, right? It's really, so that's what multi-genre analytics, and Aster is all about multi-genre. That means I can do graph, I can do clustering, I can do text analytics, I can do machine learning and predictive analytics. We're now working on deep learning capabilities as well. Path and pattern analysis, being able to see what is the most common path to purchase on my website. That's very easily done through Aster. Then I have the real-time Spark and the Spark connector and the R interfaces, right? So if I have R users that are not comfortable with ANSI SQL, and they are out there, then they can just use their open source R tool and they can be comfortable. And they can take advantage of the Aster platform as if though they were in their R environment. And we'll get to that here a little bit. So really quickly, if you understand this one statement, you'll understand how to use every analytic in the Aster box, right? And this is important because the Aster analytic package is extremely rich. It's a lot richer than Mahout. It's a lot richer than SparkML. Heck, SparkML and Mahout put together wouldn't have the number of analytic functions that are capable of writing inside of Aster, right? And you can build your own as well. You're not limited to what we give you in the box. But if you understand this, you're going to understand how to use all of Aster Analytics. Right? So the red section, I got 4 sections here. My red section is my ANSI SQL statement. I'm basically creating a table called complaints NB model. And I have the select field names from, right? So it looks very much like ANSI SQL, right? Where it gets different is the SQL MR statement. The SQL MR statement is this naive Bayes text right here. This is one of my analytic functions. So I have my select fields from table usually, or from object, or from view, or from another select statement. No, in Aster you can do those things. You can use real ANSI SQL. I could put it in a from table name if I wanted to, but to take advantage of the 120 plus functions in Aster, I just put the name of the function in the from clause, right? That's an Aster function right here, naive Bayes text. And then the on complaints, this is my data source. So that's my data source right here. So this is just a view probably into Hive, right? It's a Hive table. So it's called complaints. And then these orange areas are my predicates that tell naive Bayes what to do with this data source. So my text column is text data is a field inside a complaints called text column. Inside of there is the category column, which is category, which also lives in my complaints table. And then the categories, these are the types of categories that live inside of this category column. If that makes sense, if you understand that, right? So it's basically, there's my create table as, select from, that's my ANSI SQL statement. Naive Bayes on is my SQL MR statement. That's how I take advantage. And I got 120 of these naive Bayes texts. That's just one of them. On complaints is my data source, which is just, it could be a view, or it could be another query, right? It could be another SQL MR statement if you wanted to. And then these predicates tell naive Bayes what to do with this data source. If you understand that, you understand how to take advantage of and use all 120 plus analytic functions that are inside of Aster. And that's very powerful because you got text analytics, you got graph, and you've got quite a few in here. Right? You got association analytics, and that's where you got your basket generator and your C filter and your recommender. You got your time series, which is dynamic time warping and NPath and things like that. My clustering, canopy, K-modes, K-means, Gaussian mixture model, things like that. And then I got my statistical functions, etc. And I have my model management in here as well. There's model management such as confusion matrices and cross-validation. So there's a lot of things in here. Right? And you can build your own. The other beautiful thing is that we don't sell these by the SKU. These come all in one offering. You don't have pieces and parts to pay for. We give it to you, all of it. And when new ones come out, we have usually a new analytics release gets dropped maybe every 3 to 6 months. And when those new things come out, we offer them up to you. The beautiful thing is that they're usually backward compatible to 2 or 3 versions. So that's a beautiful thing. I think it's really exciting. So let's get back to the people. Let's get back to the humans. How do I interact with Aster, right? If I'm a data, these things I've got to worry about. If I'm a data scientist and I'm building out a solution, I have to also consider the other people that are involved in building out a solution, right? I have access controls. I've got data lineage issues. I've got data privacy issues, security, data quality, regulatory compliance. I've got these problems whether I'm in Hadoop or Aster, it doesn't matter. But the point is that if I'm using a tool that's easier to use, or easier to be able to strap up, tools to, and actually leverage SQL-based tools, I'm able to take advantage of things faster. Then I've got my whole support and operations. One of the things we don't think about as data scientists, we don't think about, well, what happens when something goes production? And as soon as a boss or a manager or a director or something like that sees something and goes, wow, I got to have that on my desk every Tuesday, guess what? You just went into production. That means you got to have ITIL process, change controls, compatibility controls. You got to have, segregation of duties possibly. So all this governance has to be considered. And what's behind all this governance? Human beings, right? And that means different skills and different talents and things like that. The stuff that Gartner was just talking about, I was talking about 30 minutes ago, right? It's not just the data scientists we have to be concerned with. We need to worry about all the different humans, right? My data scientists and my business data scientists, I get it, right? Those are the people that build the solutions. My data scientists, they build the R, they build the machine learning. My business data scientists, well, maybe they know a little bit. Maybe they can use Aster, or they can use deep analytics with some UI tool or something like that. Maybe they can get into it and code a little bit too. But the point is, we tend to focus mostly on these guys. But what about my database administrators and my Hadoop administrators? What about QA and UAT and testing? If you're going to build a model that's going to have an effect on the global customer base, don't you think you ought to test it a little bit first and teach somebody how to test it? And should the same people that write the solution be the ones that are testing it? That's the big question. Then I have my IT change control and my IT support and operations. Who's going to take care of this application at midnight, right? Or at Christmas or holidays and things like that? Who's going to take care of it? Guess who? Human beings, people. My data subject matter experts, my business subject matter experts need to be involved in the development of solution. My leadership team. If I don't have leadership team support, I'm done, right? Governance, security, and regulatory compliance, right? If I've got privacy issues or security issues, if I've got healthcare data, PHI, or things like that, I got to be really cognizant of that. And of course, my business systems owner and my audit and service level agreement adherence group, right? Now, I'm not saying all of you have all these things. Maybe some of you have a mixture of these things, and maybe this is a little overkill. But my point is that we have to build solutions, and this is one of the parts of skills gaps that Gartner was talking about. Most of these people can't spell Hadoop, let alone work in it. So that's the deal, and we have to support things when they go into production. And I think that's a big part of this. Aster makes a lot of that easier. And then we have tools for the data science. So here are tools for those various users, right? So I got my Teradata Studio, which is nothing more than a query IDE, an interactive development environment that allows me to issue any of the commands across any of those genres of analytics. So I can do everything from here, everything from one place. And this is a free utility, and that allows you to run and interrogate the database, interrogate the objects that Aster is working with Hive, and then also run the analytics directly from here. So I can do my text analytics, I can do my graph, I can do my other things. So that's what this is for. This is really a tool for my developer, for my data scientist developer, to take advantage of Aster. Then I have my R tool. And so this allows, and about 70% of the functions, 60% of the functions that are available in Aster, as well as many of the commonly used ones inside of the R CRAN area, are already pushed into R, into Aster R, and are made parallelized. Now, not everything can be parallelized, I get it. But the point is I can take advantage of R at scale, at high speed, against partitioned data sets. And I can use the same form factor that our people that are coming out of college or that are familiar with R are going to be familiar with. What we've done is we've created an interface for all of our functions, the Aster function, or 60% of our Aster functions, that allow you to take advantage of the same syntax that you would for running any any R function. And here's just an idea of how fast this can be. We did a POV not too long ago with a very large bank. They wanted to see how fast we could get this to run. So this is the number of records that we did an analyzed credit score, analyzed loan ages, and things like that. 1 billion records, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's how fast this can go. And then we had a complex data transformation. We did 17.7 million in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. This ought to give you an idea, try to do this on your R workstation at home. And this is, I think it's Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae data. It's a public data set, so you can actually try to do this yourself. You can't do 1 billion records in a workstation with R very easily, if at all. So that's what this is the power of Aster R with this infrastructure. All right, this is a new thing coming out, and it's the NIME tool. We have an Aster Workbench, which allows for workflow to actually be able to drag and drop and build your Aster solutions and then store them and actually run them from NIME. And NIME is just an open source workflow engine that we've integrated with, and that's very exciting. That's another tool for my data scientist. And then Aster Tango. Aster Tango is a tool I built, actually, that will help you learn Aster Analytics. You can get that free up on the community, and it's aster-community.com. And it basically allows you a code repository. It'll get you to the videos. It'll teach you how to build the analytics and actually do code generation. It'll actually build code for you and actually allow you to share your code with other people who can talk to your repository. So all the data can be persisted down to a repository that teams can share. Okay? So it takes more than that. What about my business data scientists? Well, they use tools like Tableau or Excel or Spotfire or MicroStrategy. And so what they're able to do is they want to use this from a human aspect. They want to use tools they're familiar with. Well, you can attach those tools to Aster very easily. It's just through an IP address and a login credential. Very easy to do. This is a tool for my business data scientists. And of course, we have App Center, which is another tool for my business data scientist or my business user. They want to be able to point and click. So you select the app you want. You say we select the 4th app here on the right, and I just double click the app, and then up comes a form. I fill in the forms, and the forms can be made very easily. I can teach anybody on this call in 5 minutes how to build one of these apps from the beginning to end. In fact, I'm willing to put that out there for 30 minutes. So you fill out the form, and behind this drop-down combo box is a run button. So I have it hidden, I apologize, and then I can get to my visualization options. So I've got my raw data, I've got a hierarchy diagram, I've got Sankey's, I've got your traditional bar charts, line charts, pie charts, things like that. I got my sunburst, and then of course I can integrate and build a Tableau infrastructure or BI infrastructure inside of here as well. This also comes with a REST API that allows you to integrate Teradata App Center apps into your applications if you wish. So that's a very powerful thing, and that's for my business data scientists, and now they can be involved. We've built about 40 applications that across many different industries. So if anyone's an Aster customer and you have App Center and you don't have these apps, we can help you get these applications, and it'll tell you it's just some commonly known use cases that we've worked on in Aster and in our COI, our Center of Innovation. So this is interesting and exciting. You see we have retail, telco, and things like that. And then, of course, we have, for my non-technical users, they aren't going to be very familiar with Excel. They're not going to be able to do, any kind of analytics. They just want a point-and-click infrastructure that allows them to do things like, customer satisfaction, customer 360, customer journey, customer pathing, recommendation engines. We actually have pre-packaged solutions that work on top of Aster that do these things, and we'll help you work with you. And they're related through service. They're sold through service offerings, but they come with interfaces, forms, reports, and analytics. And it's really exciting. And then finally, the most important interface is the call center. How do I get my answer into the call center applications? If I've got a churn score and a customer lifetime value score and somebody calls in, I want that score to pop up, and I want really that retained customer program, and that's going to be a set of scripts behind there. Well, how do I build that out? If Aster comes with an ODBC or JDBC driver, it can interface with any API. I can make that easily, I can build advanced analytics solutions that can be easily integrated into other solutions and business solutions that affect the way my business operates. And that's what people are doing with Aster. That's what organizations are doing with Aster. So with that said, I'm going to go through a quick demonstration for IoT. And what we did was we took a bunch of utilities data off of a power grid. And I won't spend a lot of time here because I'm running out of time here. I got 2 minutes left before we go to Q&A. But what you're looking at is a data absorption product that we built off of open source tools, and what we've done is we put an interface around it, and it's called Teradata Listener. And what this does is it allows you to absorb small messages. So small messages are under 1 megabyte, right? So what we did was we took a utilities example for a power grid, and we took in a bunch of data from the sensors coming off the transformers. We took data coming off of the trucks that are rolling around to fix those transformers and those utility objects. And then we took in some weather data, and we landed that data inside the Teradata 1800. Now, we could have landed that into Aster. We could have landed that into Hadoop. It's very easy. You define your source, you define your target, right, and then you land it. Then what do I do with it? Well, I want to wrap that with BI tools. So I'm going to do exploratory analytics with Tableau. And so what I'm looking at here is I've got a down power grid in the greater Los Angeles area. Well, I could take a look at there. I could dig into that further, and I could take a look at, the red lines below are really 3 times the normal standard deviation of a normal, healthy transformer device, right? So I'm able to look at things as they're happening in real time. But I want to do more than that. Well, what's the impact of weather? What's really causing that? Well, you can see here I'm in Los Angeles. I've zoomed in, and I've got a weather. It's hot, right? It's hot, and there's some clouds overhead. There's probably a storm going on, which has a massive effect on the power grid because everybody's got their air conditioning on, right? But what if I could do stuff? You see that red ball right there? That red ball signifies that I've got a down device, a down transformer in my infrastructure. What if I could stream in real-time data, not only to Hadoop, but I could stream it into the real-time scoring SDK, and I could build models, and I could do predictive parts failure, or I could do predictive down. I could actually avoid the risk of an unplanned outage, right? So here is just a set of models, and you'd have more than one model, and this is for a transformer winding repair. And these are all the things that occur before that transformer fails, right? Now, if we could use that as a test data set, build a model, and then actually test that model and actually go into, well, we think this thing's going to fail in 60 days, we could get predictive, and we could actually prevent that unplanned outage. And then I could also, this is for my human interface, this is for my human analytics, I can look at things that occur together, that co-occur together through a graph. Right, so I'm looking at different things that affect my power grid for that transformer and a set of transformers that are the same. So you got vibration anomalies and transformer winding repairs, and you've got a vibration anomaly that occurs and things like that. So I can start to look at things in a different light. Now what I can do is when I get predictive, and I'm using the Aster real-time scoring SDK, I can actually get predictive and take proactive stance to actually fix things. And what else does that allow me to do? It keeps my service levels high, so my customers are happier, but also it allows me to plan my costs. It allows me to budget things instead of having to react all the time. It allows me to control my truck rolls because maybe I will fix things on my power grid before they actually go down. So that's the idea, is what should I fix in my rotation and how can I plan for that? And that's the predictive analytics. These are things that we are doing with Aster. So that concludes my presentation today. But before I go, yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Before I go, sir, you can get more information by going to the Aster Community. It's right here, the URL, aster-community.teradata.com. Please feel free to sign up and register, get an account, and I look forward to seeing you out there. And if anybody wants a 30-minute how to use Aster, I'll go through a predictive model with you that does website analysis and whatnot, and I'll be more than happy to do it. So thank you, sir. Great time.
Oh, John, thanks so much. That was a great presentation. Boy, Aster really does seem like the Swiss Army knife of solutions here, so it's a little difficult to get our hands around everything that's going on here. But let's get started with today's Q&A session, and I want to thank the audience for their participation. Had a lot of questions that have come in during the presentation, so we'll do our best to get through all of them in the time remaining. And during the Q&A session, I'll leave up this screen with contact information for John if you'd like to contact him following today's webinar or take him up on his offer of a free 30-minute guide through Aster. So let's get started. John, just getting acquainted with everything that you've talked about is a large topic. Can you talk a little bit about where I can get more information about Aster Analytics, and should I be joining the Aster Community, which was your previous screen?
Yeah, I kind of jumped the gun.
How does that relate to my learning more about Aster?
Yeah, so not only you can join the community, so we saw the URL for the community, but also if you just Google Learn Aster, all you have to do is go to Google and type Learn Aster, and there'll be about 40 hours worth of videos there that can teach you how to use and leverage Aster, right into going into deep analytics. So we have people that want to learn how to do support vector machines, or they want to learn how to do a GLM, or they just want to learn how to take care of an Aster system through DBA kind of things. It's all up there. And the Aster community, of course, is available to everyone on the call and anyone in the public to be able to get an account. And all the videos are also categorized and landed there as well. But those two things are probably the easiest ways to get to know Aster.
Okay, well, thank you for that answer. Now, how does multi-genre Aster differ from other multi-genre solutions like SAP or R? And couldn't I just pull together a multi-genre solution from open source?
Yeah, absolutely. Never, I've been a developer for 25, 30 years now. Never tell a developer they can't do something. They'll have it done tomorrow. But yeah, absolutely they could. But it's all the hops and all the tools and all the different things you have to do in order to get something done with Aster. And then what do I use for my interfaces? What do I use for my UI? What do I use for my security? What do I do for my data wrangling? I really want to take advantage of ANSI SQL, but I need to use this tool instead. Aster comes with all of that. So that's really the difference, is that it comes with a UI. It comes with the tools in a common interface and a common language interface across many genres of analytics. I don't have to jump around different form factors, different code. I don't have to know Java or Python or Scala. If I know how to use ANSI SQL and I really want to take advantage of some deep learning or deep analytics, I'm able to do that right now. So that's the difference. It's all in a complete bundle, and I can take advantage of real-time scoring, and I can take advantage of Spark, and I can take advantage of data in Hadoop.
Well, thank you.
Did I answer your question, sir? That's a tough
absolutely.
question.
Absolutely, it did. Now, I like the part of your presentation where you focused on the different levels of users, the human angle for Aster. Your existing clients, you say this is useful for the business data scientist, the business analyst. Is that the way your customers are currently using it?
Absolutely.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Or are they really just data scientists?
Well, the beauty of it is that we do have data scientists chomping at it all the time. And then we do have business users, and that's a variety of users, right? We have people that'll never really understand the language that's going on underneath that app, right? They can use Aster. The bundled offerings that our Aster Solutions Group, we actually have implementations of CSI where people build their own rules and run their own analytics, and they don't have a clue what they're running. They just know that the answers that are coming out are interesting and compelling, and they're looking at deficiencies and breakdowns in their operations with their customers, right? That's all they care about, right? So those are the things that we're doing, and my customers are doing them, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, just a couple months ago. It's like, my customers are really doing this, and they're not just playing make-believe. They're not just doing POVs and POCs. They're not just doing science experiments or, hey, we built this cool thing, but it's not in production. I mean, there's customers that I have that have over 150 models running in Aster to do churn prediction, and they were already good at churn prediction with SAS. They were already good at it, and they're using Aster to do it better.
Okay. Now, data scientists and the folks you call business data scientists and business analysts and business users all have different skill sets. Is there a common skill set that these folks need to have in order to use Aster, or are they using their existing knowledge? What's the skill set that's required to begin to use Aster?
Well, the beauty of that is if I have a hands-on data scientist that understands how to use a Bayesian model, understands SVM, understands Lars, Lasso, Markov, chains and things like that, they're going to be at home with Aster because they're going to be able to take advantage of those analytics, right? Then I have business data scientists that just want to use the score, just want to use the churn prediction, just want to use the customer lifetime value. We have App Center for that, and that's point and click. It's as easy to use as your iPhone, right? You click your app and you use it, right? And then we have users that are a little more technical, right, that do want to get in the weeds, and that's where your BI tools like Tableau come into play, and MicroStrategy and Spotfire and things like that, and Excel. I build Excel applications with that take advantage of the full genre of analytics using VBA, right, through Excel. It's a very powerful tool. And then we have our own IP bundled offerings that, that do customer journey, customer satisfaction indexing, recommendation engines that are just built to be dropped into your infrastructure. We work with you to put the data in the systems because that's the hardest part. Wrangling of data is the hardest part. I think Data Science Central had a great, I always quote it, it's like 62% of data scientists are frustrated with data wrangling. Well, I think that's another powerful place for Aster because we have the ANSI SQL interface, right? We have the full ANSI SQL capabilities. So all those form factors are available, and of course our R users can use their R syntax through RStudio. So that's the beauty of Aster. It comes with all of those things built in, and there's no separate SKUs for them. If I want the real-time scoring SDK, it comes with it. If I want the App Center, it comes with it. If I want all the genres of analytics, it comes with it. If I want ANSI SQL, it comes with it. And as soon it'll be available in AWS, so you can go spin up one of your own, right? Just as easily as you do a Databricks environment. But ours is easier, and I think that's the beauty. And then I got my Aster Spark connector, which is in beta, which allows me to take advantage of Spark, and I don't have to know how Spark works. So really what it comes down to is I got a variety of form factors that allow human beings and people in the business to be able to take advantage of my Hadoop Data Lake like never before. There's nothing out there like this.
I really agree that it is all about the ease of use and the user interface and making this simple enough for all those different categories of people to use. Let me get a little more technical. Our audience asks, since we're running R at scale, is this your own distribution of R, or is this a public distribution of R?
Well, we do have some IP, and it's called the Aster R package, right, that you have to install in your Aster environment that allows you to take advantage of data at scale, right, and that's highly partitioned, and it is across an MPP system. So that part is IP, right, and then we allow you to take advantage of, we have other solutions for like we call Toaster to Aster, which allows you to stream data in there. We do have that is up on CRAN, and then of course we do have the various packages that we install and things like that. So I mean, that's probably another webinar that could take an hour itself. But the quick answer is yes, there is intellectual property that is Aster specific, and then we do take advantage of open source tools such as the RStudio and things like that.
Okay, terrific. And then to the database side, you say this runs on Hadoop. Is it actually the native Hadoop, or is that also a specialized version?
No, it'll run on Cloudera. It'll run on Hortonworks. Those are the two distributions we're going to support, and we can get more specific information as to versions and things like that. But I mean, the point is that it's not a separate platform. Aster is a solution. It's a piece of software, right, that sits on top, and that's a unique thing for Teradata. Right? I think it's a powerful thing. You look at what we're doing with Presto, that's software. You look at what we're doing with Listener, that's software based on Kafka. Right? We took all the open source Kafka and we just put a solution around it. So you want to stream, you can use our solution as well, and we put an interface on it to make it easier to use and to monitor. So that's really what Teradata is becoming, and it's a very exciting time to be a part of Teradata.
Well, you just raised an issue that was on my mind, and that is if I use this in an IoT application, do I understand correctly that I would not have to have a separate Kafka front end to protect the data?
No, you could actually use our Listener product to stream data into a location. It could be right now it's Teradata EDW, IDW, it's Aster, or it's Hadoop. Right? In the future, it's probably what I think it's going to do is it's going to support our Query Grid product, which allows you for highly distributed queries in landing spots such as other relational databases or other, like Oracle or SQL Server, things like that. Right? That's coming. Right? So there's just a lot of things. Then I can do real-time scoring, and I showed that I kind of breezed through that example at the end. But that's what that does. It allows you to build that fully integrated set of packaged solutions to be able to do all these different things with your data. It's really what I think is a full-service solution set that allows you to do whatever creativity you want to do with your data to take advantage of IoT, take advantage of data at rest, or all the above.
That's remarkable. remarkable that it's headed in that direction and going to be so comprehensive. Well, John, thank you so much for some great answers to some very good questions. And for those of you that asked questions that weren't answered today, we'll send those unanswered questions to John and the Teradata team so they can follow up with you after today's webinar. I have just a few quick announcements. If you'll please mark your calendar for August 16th, that's our next DSC webinar, which is Political Data Analysis with Alteryx, Amazon Web Services, and Tableau, sponsored by Alteryx. Also, today's taping will be available on demand for viewing later today, and you can find that on the home page of Data Science Central in the Webinar tab located at the top of the page. So this brings today's webinar to a close, and I'd like to thank our audience for their attendance and the thoughtful questions, and a special thanks again to Teradata for their sponsorship, and our speaker, John Thuma, for his insight into today's topic. You know, my name is Bill Voorhees. I'm very pleased to have been your host for today's event, and I look forward to seeing you all again on August 16th. Have a great day.